Hello there, everyone. Welcome to our training, Comprehensive Implementation of ISO 9001 Quality Management System from Zero to Certification. This is Model 2, Leadership and Quality Culture. And we recommend that you start with Part 1 or Model 1 to have a ground understanding before the implementation, but you are welcome to continue from here. This part is two of eight models that are comprehensive implementation series and is built on Model 1 foundation. This model will explore how leadership drives ISO 9001 success across two operational sites. We have site A, slaughtering, and site B, uh, processing. Leadership accountability, quality culture, and cross-site integrations are essential for system effectiveness. And this model here, Model 2, of eight journey from zero to certification and beyond. And each model is built on the previous. And by doing so, it creates a complete integrated quality management system for global meat house. This course is applicable and can be tailored and replicated to any type of organization. We have just chosen to use a real case study and walk you through step by step of existing organization. Instead of explaining the clauses, we are going inside the factory or the company with you, dissecting it into pieces and designing from the ground up so that you can have a vivid understanding and also will implement with effectiveness in your own organization. Let me just turn on the spotlight here. Okay, we have progression from system understanding to leadership action. Model 1, what did we cover there? Which is a foundation. We have covered ISO 9001 structure and requirements, process approach fundamentals, documentation framework, and risk-based thinking introduction. Here, the application of Model 2, we will cover leadership ownership of the system, cultural transformation across sites, Site A and Site B, accountability in multi-site operations, and we will also cover making ISO 9001 operational reality. Model 1, we have learned that what ISO 9001 requires, and here in Model 2, we will learn the how of leadership, how leadership makes it work in the real world of the global meat house case study, which operates in two sites operations. The purpose of this model. The first purpose of this model is leadership responsibility. And we will go through understanding that ISO 9001 cannot succeed without active leadership ownership and visible commitment at both operational sites. We will design the visibility, we will design the KPIs, and we will design the engagement here in this course, and you can implement that effectively in any type of organization, and it will disperse the ownership to everyone with accountability. The second purpose of this model is quality culture, and here it will be building an organizational culture that supports quality in daily operations, not just during audit or inspection. We will do that exactly. We will design it here, how the organization culture can support day-to-day operations with effectiveness, with efficiency, and with the visibility also. The third purpose of our Model 2 is cross-site integration or multi-site integration for any organization that operates in more than one sites. By ensuring one coherent quality system, it spans both slaughtering processes and processing operations facilities with clear accountability. So what this model we cover around six elements. First, we cover the ISO leadership requirements. And here we are going to go through understanding clause 5, the leadership, and what ISO 9001 really mean by leadership commitment, accountability, and engagement. We are going to design that in real life scenario, and you are going to see how to do it uh, in an ideal way and how to carry it out in any type of organization. The second elements that we are covering in this model is quality policy design, and we are going to create a meaningful quality policy that connect both sides and guide daily decision making also. And you can replicate that in your own organization. But for the effective of this training or for better comprehension, it's just better to imagine ourselves that we are working in this company, and then later on we can replicate it in where we actually work. And it doesn't have to be in the or primary industry. It could be in any industry because the standards is the same. The third element that we are covering in our model is roles and responsibilities. And we are going to define clear ownership across sites, especially for processes that span both locations. The fourth element that we are going to cover is leadership behavior, how leadership actions shape quality culture, and what auditors observe in organization behavior. We are going also to give examples of how auditors are trained to do the observation, what do they see, and what do they translate. The fifth element, we are going to cover two sites management, and we are going to design managing quality across slaughtering and processing site with one coherent system. And then the final elements that we are going to cover is objective alignment, and we are going to be setting quality objectives that address real risks and connect both operational sites in real world. The critical reality that we are having right now is that quality risk multiply across two sites because we have multiple sites. The more sites you have, the more multiplication you have for the risks. Because at Global Meat House, the moment you split operations, we have slaughtering outside A and we have processing outside B into two locations, uh, quality risk multiply. So that's one of the fundamental truths we are going to address and how to connect both sides and operate as one quality management system. The reason the risks are multiplying is not because people are careless, but because ownership and communication and decisions are now across 2 kilometer distance, which we have between side A and side B. We have 2 kilometer, which is the most critical uh, operations we have here. And we are going to say why we think this 15 kilometers or the handover is the most critical. And we are also going to design the effective management and the ownership of the distance travel between two sites. So in ISO 9001 class 5, which is leadership, it becomes most demanding when sites are split, not less, and in multi-sites operations. So this is the fundamental truth, as we said earlier, that shapes everything in Model 2. Uh, and that's why we are going to focus in how to bring these two together. And we have around 200 to 500 employees across two facilities. So leadership, visibility, and accountability are non-negotiable here. Now, leadership structure across two sites. We are going to reiterate what we addressed last time in Model 1. So accountability framework for Global Meat House. We do have first the executive leadership, and it consists of CEO or general manager who is accountable for all business accountability and also accountable for strategic direction and accountable for resources allocation. And we do have operations director who is accountable for multi-site, site A and site B coordination, and is accountable for production and planning, and also is accountable for capacity management. And then we do have quality and compliance manager who is accountable for quality management system ownership and accountable for regulatory compliance and also accountable for certification management. And then we do have commercial director who is accountable for sales, accountable for customer relationship, accountable for export contracts, and accountable for market development. Secondly, we do have site level management, accountability framework, and it includes site A manager who is accountable for slaughtering operations and responsible for livestock reception, and also is responsible for slaughtering operations and is accountable for primary processing. And we do have site B manager for site processing operations, who is accountable for secondary processing and also is accountable for packing and accountable for cold storage and also is accountable for dispatch. And then we do have maintenance and engineer manager who is accountable for equipment reliability and also equipment for collaboration and for infrastructure. And then we do have HR and training manager at the site level management who is accountable for competence management, accountable for workforce planning, and accountable for safety culture. Thirdly, we do have operations supervisor accountability framework, and each is accountable for their own scope, starting with slaughter floor supervisors, process line supervisors, packing and labeling supervisor, cold storage, and logistics supervisors. And then we have quality control technicians or supervisors who are reporting to quality and compliance manager. So this structure here will ensure uh, has ensured clear accountability across both sides, and there is no gap in quality ownership here. When you design your accountability framework like this, so that's how you have to give each person accountability for their roles and then review it and see if there is any gap left. You have to identify where it locates and design the framework accordingly. Now, quality policy. We do have we have to build one policy for two sides because at the end of the day is one organization. And you have seen in some organizations they will build two policies for two operations. That create a lot of confusion, a lot of unclear ownership or responsibilities, and also it create kind of rivalries and resources allocations confusion. At the end of the day, it goes back to the top management that the effective way to design quality policy is to design one for multiple sites. This is how you do it. So, clause 5.2 in practice, the quality policy. Since Global Meat House operates in two distinct sites with different processes, risks, and customer touch points, the quality policy also must be meaningful, not just a statement, because it has to address both facilities, facility A and facility B. And we have to make sure that is realistic, and we are going to design it right now, but we have to avoid also the generic way where we say like we commit to quality. That doesn't mean anything there. It has to be realistic and applicable. Now, this is how you start. You have to build policy that address exactly what you do. For example, number one, it must address animal welfare and humane slaughtering practices at site A. Number two, it must address cold chain integrity during intersite transport. Number three, it must address processing consistency and specification conformance at site B, which is one of the objectives that we will explain later. And the policy also must address traceability farms customer across both locations. This is driven from objectives two, which we set the foundation in model one. The quality policy also must be designed to address exactly the export compliance to any market, for example, to EU, Middle East, Asia, and US markets. And again, the quality policy must address the continuous improvement. And here our uh, we have our 384,000 annual cost of poor quality that we set the foundation in Model 1. So here, this quality will guide daily decisions at both sides and not just to satisfy auditors or external parties. How do you make the quality policy work? You make it by translating policy to specific actions. So each statement in the policy must be translated to a specific site with its specific actions. And let's walk through it here with our case study. You have here statements and what it means inside A and side B. And for example, you have if the quality statement include we ensure product safety and quality, that means inside A where slaughtering operations works, it means humane slaughtering processes, veterinary inspection compliance, initial chilling to zero to between 0 and 4 Celsius within 24 hours. You see, it's very specific. And then the same statement for side B, it translates to temperature maintenance between 0 to 4 Celsius. Metal detector must be functional and inspected and verified. Specifications conformance must be verified and packaging integrity must be implemented. Now, if you move to the second statement from the policy, if the policy says we maintain full traceability, this means inside A, slaughtering operations, it translates to livestock supplier documentation, lot assignments of reception at receptions. Okay, so when the suppliers of the livestock have to be documented properly, assess it, uh, and also complete for traceability, and have to be up to the criteria of acceptance. And lots, when we receive the livestock, the lot have to be assigned. That means we maintain full traceability. Each reception must be assigned to a specific lot, and all the carcasses must be tagged. The same statement in side B means lot tracking through cutting, labeling with supplier to customer chain, and export documentation. That's the full traceability there. This, when another statement from the policy, we meet customer requirements. This statement inside A, slaughtering operations, it means the carcass quality grading, weight specification, and halal certifications were required. The same statement will come here inside B and confirm that cut specifications, portion accuracy, packing per customer specs, and delivery schedule are implemented effectively and efficiently. Another statement from the policy which say comply with regulations. Inside A, it means animal welfare standards are implemented, veterinary oversight are coordinated, and slaughterhouse license is obtained. The same statement inside B, processing, it means food safety regulations are met, export country approvals are confirmed, and labeling compliance is implemented. The other statement from the, the policy, when they say pursue continual improvement inside A, it means reduce temperature excursion, which is currently at 12 violations per year, and they improve livestock quality acceptance. The same statement will translate inside B that to reduce specifications, non-conformance, which is currently at 6% rework rate that we discussed inside A, and then improve export documentation accuracy in which is currently at 93% uh, accuracy. So we have 7% error there we need to improve. This part of the objectives that we are going to discuss as well. So we have the same policy, same statement, but different operational reality. Both sides must understand, each side of the organization must understand how to apply policy to their specific work and not just generic. So this is a very fundamental point here. Uh, let's see here the quality policy. Let's draft now the quality policies that is ideal, that will reflect what we just discussed. So, in our case study, Global Meat House Quality Policy Statement, it starts like this. At Global Meat House, we are committed to deliver safety, high quality meat products that consistently meet customer specifications and regulatory requirements across our two sites operations. That's a good policy, right? That's a good statement. But the statement at the same time have to be met with specific commitments. And those specific commitments are driven from first, the analysis we have done in model one, and then the objectives that we have built. So those KPIs have to go into policy. Let's see them now one by one. First, commitment, product safety and quality. This in the policy here is stated very clearly. We ensure product safety through humane slaughtering practices, strict hygiene controls, and maintain cold chain integrity from livestock reception at site A through processing, packing, and distribution at site B. Every product meets or exceed customer specifications and food safety standards. See, it's very specific and comprehensive. Second commitment, full traceability. We maintain complete traceability from approved livestock suppliers through to customer delivery across both facilities. Our systems enable rapid identification and recall capability within the required time frames for all domestic and export markets. Third commitment, regulatory and customer compliance. We comply with all applicable national food safety regulations, uh, animal welfare standards, and export country requirements, including, for example, USDA, EU, halal, and customer specific certifications. We view compliance as a minimum standard, not a goal. This is a very a distinction that is very important distinction. Sometimes people think that compliance is the ceiling, but actually it's the floor, is the minimum, is where you stand, and then you continue with the operational excellence to exceed, to always strive to exceed. The other commitment we have is operational excellence across sites. It states that we operate Site A slaughtering and Site B processing as one integrated quality system with clear accountability. You see, effective communication and control handover processing. The 15 kilometers between our two facilities is managed as a control process, not a gap in responsibility. Not like, you remember in our first model, we talked about this gap where we did our gap analysis and we found out that there was no clear responsibility for this in between. Now, this is the updated, the commitment for implementation ISO 9001. So we are closing here even through the policy. We are closing all the gaps. The other statement, commitment, competence, and engagement. We ensure that our 200 to 500 employees across both sites have the training, resources, and authority to deliver quality. Here, it implies that also the employees, when they see the non-conformance happening or near miss or a work need to be stopped in order to comply to quality, they have the authority. and the competence must be provided here, and the resources is stated in the policy. We foster a culture where quality is everyone's responsibility, you see, not just the QA department role. Continual improvement commitment. We systematically reduce our cost of poor quality, currently at 384,000 annually, by addressing root causes of recurring problems, including traceability gaps, temperature excursion, specification non-conformance, and documentation's error. We measure performance, learn from failure, and prevent recurrence. Customer focus, commitment. We strive to exceed customer expectation for domestic retail, wholesale, and food services and international export markets. We respond to complaints within 24 hours and use customer feedback to drive improvement. Very specific. Leadership accountability commitment. Pay very pay attention here. This is where the difference made because leadership, we are going to explain it later. Leadership is what built everything in a company. This policy is owned by executive leadership and implemented through clear role and responsibility at both sides. Quality objectives are reviewed monthly, and this policy is reviewed annually for continual suitability. Very beautiful. And now it's approved by GM or CEO and is dated, signed with date, and is communicated to all employees, all suppliers, and all interested parties, and is reviewed frequently annually as it states there in the policy by the in the management review, and the next review date also will be stated here. So now this policy will be displayed at side A, side B, in operation side, in the offices, in the resting room, everywhere that is accessible, and also will be used for orientation or induction of new employees and make sure that everybody understand what we have. So quality policy become part of the induction, not just capturing the screenshot and putting it in the slides during the induction, but orientation. Yeah. And it referenced it in management reviews also. It addressed the specific contexts, risks, and opportunities that we identify in Model 1. Now, uh, where are the projects really break sometimes? So let's learn from the current state of Meat House, our case study company. So before ISO implementation, the Global Meat House, our case study company, has experienced recurring quality issues that reveal where leadership accountability was unclear, actually. And we highlight that in Model 1. So first, we have traceability breakdown with 8 incidents per year. And the root cause for that was there was no single owner for end-to-end traceability and in both sides, or and then the leadership gaps, side A and side B, each one will thought, oh, it was not my problem, it's this person problem. So there was a gap there. Also, we have identified temperature control failure with 12 incidents within a year. And the root cause for that was reactive maintenance, and there was no preventive maintenance program being implemented or scheduled or approved. And the leadership gap there was maintenance manager doesn't have any authority to stop production for equipment services. So export documentation also we identified there was an error of 7% of shipment, which caused a lot of delay. And the root cause there was manual processing, and there were no verification steps to ensure accuracy. And the leadership gap there, if you notice, we are talking about leadership because this model is about leadership. Leadership commitment. The leadership gap there was commercial director and quality manager didn't have clear ownership roles. Then we identified corrective actions failures uh, with 33% reoccurring. The same problem was happening again and again by 33%. Uh, that means it was not effective. The closure is not effective. The root cause of that, it was superficial root cause analysis, and there was no follow up. The leadership gap there is no executive accountability for corrective action, preventive action effectiveness. So these are not just a process problem. Now you can see they are leadership accountability problem. Each identified gap, we saw the leadership gap there. So ISO 9001 leadership commitment will address these exactly. Now, in model 3, where we will uh, we will address this systematically, and model 7 in model 7, sorry, and model 7 is all about improvement, and improvement is itself is the living or the soul of ISO 9001. So what will we learn in ISO in chapter 7 or model 7 improvement? We will learn how to handle nonconformities with proper root cause analysis and not the superficial. We will explain, we will design it, and we will give real life examples for that. We will also learn there the implementation of corrective actions that actually prevent reoccurring. And we will address this 33%. We will reduce it actually to almost zero with a real design. And then we will learn how to build a learning culture where mistakes become improvement opportunities, not blame, and anybody can raise a concern, report a near miss, and discuss uncomfortable situations. And everybody is just open to learn. So building a culture is what we will learn also in Model 7. And then we will learn how to track the improvement of corrective actions and closure. That means the follow up, effective follow up. So the critical link here with Model 2, the Model 2 establish the who is accountable. But Model 7 will establish the how they fix the problems when they occur. And without Model 2, by knowing first who is who and ownership, Model 7 corrective actions will not have any uh, implementation. First, you need to know the owner, and then you have to figure out how to fix it. And that's what we are doing here now. We are putting the ownership first. So leadership accountability in Model 2 here, plus the systematic improvement in Model 7, equate to problem will get solved once and not repeatedly. That's mean effective improvement. Critical side responsibilities. Now, this is where we start assigning the responsibilities because unclear responsibilities, again, nothing gets solved. So let's do it effectively and realistically, assigning the responsibilities. Who owns what between side A and side B? So we have activities and responsible side and accountable role and communication protocol. So you have livestock quality acceptance. The responsible for that is side A, and accountable for that is a side A manager with the criteria of acceptance and quality check. They have to confirm that everything go to their side is meeting the requirements, and they have to communicate daily the reports to operational director. Then we have the other activity, which is carcass grading and lot assignment. Side A also is responsible for that, but accountable role is side A QA supervisor, and they have to communicate documentation will must travel with the products. So they have to ensure how to hand over the documentation to the drivers without missing any trip. And we will design this along the way. And then you have intersite transport cold chain. Both sides are responsible here, and accountability is on operational director because this is a sensitive issue. So the bar has been raised, and the operational director will have KPIs for this responsibility. Communication is temperature monitoring design have to be in real life alert and get fixed before it get out of control. Side B also have to have criteria of acceptance check, confirming that the temperature is functioning and everything is meeting the requirements. Then you have side B inspection at receiving inspection at side B. Side B is responsible for that, but side B QC supervisor is accountable and have the authority of rejection and also giving feedback to side A within 2 hours and get the problem solved. And then you will have uh, the activity of processing specification conformance. Side B is responsible for that, and side B manager is accountable. And they have to ensure that in-process checks is happening, specifications are met, the the workforce are trained, and the daily yield reporting is produced. And then we do have traceability system integrity. Both sides are responsible for the traceability, but quality and compliance manager is accountable for this traceability. This is a very, very critical issue. And the communication protocol here is weekly traceability test drill must be carried out, and monthly audit must be carried out, and effective closure of any finding must be carried out, um, must be fine. Customer complaints investigation, both sides are responsible. Quality and compliance manager is accountable. Uh, just give me a second. Yep. Complaint quality and compliance manager is accountable, and the root cause analysis involve both sides when applicable. That's the communication protocol. Uh, yep. So let's see the corrective actions. Corrective actions implementation is responsibility of each sides that have a non-conformance, and the site manager is accountable for that. The communication protocol include effectiveness verification by quality manager. So when closure happen, it has to be verified by quality manager. The export documentation activity, side B is responsible where the process happened, and commercial director is accountable for export documentation accuracy, and the communication protocol here include quality manager have to verify regulatory compliance for its specific markets and ensure the documents are available as per the requirement. And then we have management review data. Both sides are responsible. Quality and compliance manager is accountable, and consolidated reports from both sides is the communication protocol. Now, uh, clear ownership prevents the what we say before the mentality of it's not my problem, it's their problem. That will not happen here uh, when you have clear ownership. How this ownership now connects to the latter models from 3 to 8. We do have in model 8, in model 4, which is support, this responsibilities requires competence. So in model 4, we will define the training need for each role here and how to carry it out, how to allocate the resources for that. And then in model 5, which is operations, this responsibility become recommended procedure. So in model 5, we will detail how each activity is actually controlled. And then in model 6, which is performance, this responsibility are monitored through key performance indicators. So model 6 will establish a measurement system on daily, on monthly, on weekly, and so on. And then we have in model 7, which is improvement, when responsibility fail in model 7, corrective actions process determine the root cause and prevent recurrence. So we will see how to link that, the communication, the escalation, the the finding the solution and getting the problem fixed. So leadership here defines who owns what. That's model two, where we are right now. The remaining models define how they do it, how it measured, and how it's improved. Leadership commitment in practice. Let's see when people talk about leadership commitment, how does it happen in real life? That's to fulfill class 5.1, leadership engagement. What does ISO expect here? Leaders must be present and not just talk from far. So the example we have here with our two sites case study, how to implement that with regular visits to both locations, not just headquarters or when the convenience side or the nearest side. No, they have to be present on the shop floor on both sides. And just, and then we have process approach. This is a leadership commitment. And ISO will expect the leadership commitment end-to-end thinking. So here in our case study, there must be a joint a slaughter to process review that trace quality through the entire chain. That must be addressed, documented, and signed. And we have resources support in leadership commitment. ISO expect investment where risk exists. And in our case study, we have in transport control the gap to where we have 2 kilometers distance between two sites, the chiller monitoring equipment at handover points. No, the chillers and the monitoring equipment at handover point. All these things must be invested to translate the resources support and investment where the risks that we have identified earlier on in model one. And then we do have communication in leadership commitment. The ISO expect one message to all the sites. So in our case here, we have the same KPIs, the same priorities, and consistent messaging across the locations. That's how you demonstrate the communication to fulfill the requirement. The visibility test. This is now you can replicate to your organization, and let's see, you can measure the current practice from where they want to be. But now, leadership that only visit one side or some sites is sending actually a message. In some companies, when you have like 4 or 5 facilities, leaders go to the nearest one or the cleanest one. They are actually sending a message that they don't know. Employees and auditors both they will notice that leadership attendance where it goes and physical presence at both sides or at all sides will demonstrate genuine commitment to integrated quality system. But remote management, if just leaders stay somewhere else and just send messages, that's a delegation. It's not a leadership. Okay. Quality objectives. Let's design the actual objectives that work, not just words on the papers. So we are going to address the real performance months gaps that we have identified in Model 1, and the objectives must connect all the sites without creating competition. So in our case study, they should address global meat houses' actual performance gaps that we have identified earlier. First, objectives, customer complaints. Currently, the baseline is 2.3 of shipments, right? And then our target is to reduce it to less than 1.5 within the next 12 months. The owner here is quality compliance manager. The site metrics, we will track by the origin, site A versus site B, but the objectives and the target is one. And then we have a specification conformance where we have a current baseline of 94% accuracy rate, and we target more than 98% within the next 12 months. The owner here is operational director who manage both sides, and side B uh, uh, where the specification conformance will work. They have to reduce the rework by 6% rate, right? Now, the cost of poor quality, current baseline, we have 384,000 annual cost of poor quality, which is equivalent to 1.9 of revenue. And we are targeting reduction by 30 to 40% within the next 18 months. The owner of this is the overall general manager or the CEO, and both sides have to contribute to reduce the temperature excursions that our baseline currently we have 12 incidents a year. We are targeting zero excursion, and the owner of this is maintenance and engineer manager. So now the maintenance manager has the power to stop and provide preventative maintenance to meet the target. Both sides preventative maintenance program have to be carried out, have to be scheduled, have to be deployed, and have to be implemented without compromise. And then we do have the objective of traceability performance. The current baseline is 8 traceability gaps per year. We are targeting 100% traceability test success, and the owner of this objective is quality and compliance manager. It has to be conducted in both sites with monthly traceability drills. And then the other objectives we have is export documentation. Uh, just give me a second. Need to connect the power. We have the doc, export documentation accuracy, which is current with the current baseline. We have 93% with 7% error rate, and we are targeting more than 99% accuracy. The owner of this is commercial director, and side B has to implement the verification procedures, which we will design along the way. So these objectives, as you notice, are smart and address real problems. A leadership review will progress monthly to see to confirm the progression toward the improvement. So when we look ahead at Model 3, what will happen there? These quality objectives will become the foundation for risk identification in Model 3, and each objective will reveal risks. Uh, Customer complaints target risk, recording quality failure, temperature excursion targets. The risk is cold chain breakdown. The traceability target, the risk is recall inability. So the Model 3 will teach us how to identify risk before they become problems using these objectives as our guide. Uh, Quality objectives model 2 here, plus risk management in the next model, which is model 3, will be equivalent to proactive prevention instead of reactive firefighting. Now, the interface, the process no one owns, the 15 kilometers in between two sites. The 15 kilometers risk. The most critical risk at Global Meat House is not side A or side B, it's the 15 kilometers, like we said earlier. So the interfaith process, let's try now to design and control this effectively, right? So if you have similar issues in your organization, you can replicate this, but tailor it to your own way. So what happened here? First, let's explain the process. Side A, complete slaughtering and chilling, right? Then the carcass will be loaded into refrigerated transport. And then they will travel 15 kilometers to side B, and then they will receive, and they will receive and conduct the inspection, and then they will do the processing there at side B. So what can go wrong in this process? First, the temperature excursions during the transport. We already have 12 incidents last year. And then the documentation doesn't travel with the product, which is a traceability gap. And then side A thinks quality is good, while side B rejected. This is a communication also breakdown. we don't have a real-time temperature reading and product condition and all that, but we are going to design it. And then transport delay causes scheduling chaos at site B. And we also have damage during loading, unloading, and accountability, and is unclear there. So the ownership problem that we face last year, side A manager will say typically my responsibility end when it leaves my dock. Side A will say my responsibility start when I accept it. And the transport provider will say I just drive the truck. Operational director will say both sides should coordinate. Yeah, that with respect to that, it's unclear. So what is the solution here when you implement ISO 9001 quality management system? In clause 8.5.1, it requires control coordination throughout production. Uh, so the interface must have a clear owner, documented handover procedure, and acceptance criteria. So that the system have to be designed now to meet clause 8.5.1, and we are going to do exactly that. Now, let's see the interface requirements, how to manage these 15 kilometers. You have, let's break it down by elements. First, uh, the product temperature element, no, the elements, and then how it can be controlled, and how to meet the requirements of ISO or why ISO care, and who is the responsible party. So we have product temperature, how it should be controlled, of course, continual monitoring, real-time monitoring with GPS tracking data logger, and alarm have to go off uh, when the temperature go above 4 degrees Celsius. So, and this will meet the requirement of ISO 8.5.1 control conditions. And then the responsible for this have to be the operations director so that the tone should come from the top because this is a critical one. Product conditions, side A, this how it should be controlled by side A have to have a dispatch checklist filled and signed by the side AQC on the operations according to the design, and then side B have to receive with inspection, and then they have the rejection authority if what they see in real life doesn't match with what they have in inspection, and this will meet the requirement of ISO with of class 8.6, and responsible here is both sides have to confirm that they are working with accuracy and transparency. Then we have the interface element, which is documentation that uh, we identify the gaps there and it affect the traceability. The way it should be controlled here is the documentation must travel with the product, with the driver, and verification at both ends have to be carried out with signatures and validation. So this is to meet the requirement of class 5.2 traceability. And the responsible for this is quality and compliance manager have to design how these should be carried out, which we will do along the way. Uh, then you have a transport vehicle element here. The way it should be controlled is that vehicle inspection before loading have to happen. Temperature with pre-check have to happen. Cleanliness verification have to happen and have to be verified. And this is to meet the requirement of class 8.4, which is external provided services. The responsible person with the KPIs for this is side A, dispatch supervisor. The other element, which is loading, unloading, uh, it has to be controlled here with a documented procedure, time limits to minimize temperature exposure in both sides. This is very critical. So SOP have to be designed for this. This is to meet class 8.5.1 product control, and site supervisors are responsible for loading and unloading The communication element, real-time notifications of dispatch. Have This is how you control the communication here. Notification of dispatch have to be deployed or real time. Established arrival time have to be communicated. Any issue during transport have to be immediately in real time notified. And this will fulfill the requirement of ISO 7.5, 7.5.4, which is a requirement for communication. The operations, the responsible for this is operations coordination. Now we have the element of schedule coordination. The way it should be controlled is through daily production planning with consideration to transport capacity and timing. And this will fulfill the requirement of ISO 8.1 plan operational planning. And the responsible for this task or this element is operational director. And then we do have non-conformance handling. The way it should be controlled here is with clear escalation. Side B can reject. Side A must respond within 2 hours. You see? And this to fulfill the requirement of class 8.7, the control of non-conformance outputs. The responsible for this is quality manager arbitrates. So model 5 will details this control. We will put more details to put more clarity, but I hope now you have also some sort of clarity so far. Uh, Model 5, which is operations control, and this is where we will translate everything to more reality. So model 2 here, we are establishing what the interface must be controlled and who owns it, operations director, right? So model 5 will establish how it's controlled. The how will include process mapping for the 15 kilometers transport process and also the operational planning for daily coordination between two sites, and then the supplier control for the transport provider, and then the production control for loading, unloading procedures, and then identification and traceability for documentation handover. This all will be addressed. The how will be addressed in Model 5. So Model 2 now is ownership. Model 5 is execution. So the interface control table, what we just explained here, will become a detailed procedure in Model 5. So this interface is now control, right? So with the clear ownership, not like before where we have a lot of gaps. So if the interface is weak, like what happened before, both sides will pass the audit, like any time, any organization. The process in between is always weak, a lot of complaints happening there, but customer is the one who is suffering. Just give me a see. Okay, the interface ownership model. You see, this is how you do it. Side A, dispatch. Who owns this? Uh, Side A, dispatches, owns conditions at departure, right? Documentation also and temperature at loading. And then you have transport processes, dedicated owner for time, temperature, hygiene during transit. And then you have side B, reception, uh, who owns acceptance criteria, verification, escalation, and decision. So each stage here requires clear ownership, right? The transportation process cannot be no one's job. That's very critical element there. It must have a dedicated process owner with authority and accountability. So the culture signals in two-side organizations. Auditors, they have they are trained to observe. So organizational culture, it reveals itself language, behavior, and system because auditors are really, really trained to detect cultural weaknesses that undermine even well-documented procedure, or you can import the documents, clean the place, but auditors always can pick up the culture. Now, you see, let's translate now what auditor observes and what it means. So when the auditor hears something like that happened at the other side, auditor di- directly will understand that this is a silo culture. When they hear we report and the fix, if the operation say that we reported to the maintenance and the fix, but they didn't do it, that's unclear ownership. But when they see joint review happen monthly with documentation, with signature, with with implementation, with follow up, they know this is a mature system. Uh, when they see that data are shared openly, they know there is a trust there. And when they feel the blame across sides, there is a weak leadership actually. And when they hear something like we are one team, in a real sense, genuinely, that will indicate integrated culture. And then when they feel or when they observe that the problem are hidden until audit because sometimes they figure that, right? They know it's a fear base. It's not because of people are mischievous, but they know it's a fear based culture. And then when they know or when they observe that proactive problem solving is happening in a real sense, they know that that's an improvement culture. So here you have to reflect what happened, where you are, and where you want to be. So, and honestly, like we discussed earlier, cultures cannot be faked. It it can appear and it emerges through consistent patterns of behavior, communication, decision making, and over time. Now, leadership behavior that shapes culture in a real sense. This is a reflective slides where we see where we are in a real life and where we want to be as leadership behavior. Visible presence. When there is a regular work around at both sides or at all sides, when you are a multi-sites operations, engaging with frontliner workers and asking about quality in a genuine way that you want to help without sending out the signals of blames. That means that the visibility presence is fulfilled. The data-driven decisions using quality metrics to guide resources allocation and present improvements, process improvement without ignoring them, and also recognition system is very important. Morale, the safety culture, the safety net, uh, acknowledging quality improvements and problem solving across both sides, and celebrating the champions. And then the open communication, where we create safe channels for reporting problems without fear of blame. Always, the reporting problems is a learning process. It's not a problem. You know, the reporting always is a learning process. We have to take them as a lesson. These behaviors requires support of or model 4. Leadership behavior don't happen in vacuum actually. So they require support processes. Now, system fail when the support is weak. But what will happen um, res- in the support or in the model for resources and infrastructure, leaders it covers leaders need to access to both sides, communication systems, and data dashboard. Competence and training, leaders must understand mid operations, ask intelligent questions, you see. And then the communication system, cross sites coordination requires reliable communication infrastructure. And then the documented information, leaders need procedures that reflects reality, not bureaucracy. Now, Model 2 defines leadership behavior, and Model 4 provides the resources and systems that make these behaviors possible. because you cannot walk the floor at site B if you have no transport or schedule. So the resources allocation and the support and the training all will discuss. Now, practical leadership routine. This is how we design it for our case study, making the commitment operational. This is how you involve leaders instead of being in the office. First, with daily routine, uh, it has to involve review key quality metrics from both sides. The review have to happen genuinely, respond to escalation, visible presence in at least one facility. And then, secondly, you have weekly routine, which will include cross-site quality meeting, interface performance review, corrective action progress check. And then you have number three, monthly routine, which should include management review preparation, objective tracking, site visit to both locations, and cultural assessment. And then you have number four, quarterly routine, which should include formal management review, strategic quality planning, resources allocation decisions, and audit preparation. So these routines will feed to model six, performance evaluation. The leadership routines we establish here in above design. Okay, just let me go one. So you can see here, this routine uh, will be the framework for one, daily metrics reviews in Model 6, monitoring and measurement. And then there will also become a framework for weekly coordination, Model 6, internal communication effectiveness, and then monthly objectives reviews. So in Model 6, you have management review input. So these are the measures. We are going to measure them in Model 6. And then the quarterly site visits. Model 6 will measure also leadership and engagement evidence. So leadership routines are not just good practices, they are the data collection system for Model 6 performance evaluation, which we will do, uh, and we will relate back to what we are building throughout. And without these routines, you have nothing to measure in Model 6 actually. So again, you have to design it in a way that not only will you collect the pictures and signatures, but you are building the cultures with engagement with uh, various interested parties. So these routines transform leadership commitment from an abstract concept to into observable, consistent behavior that shapes organizational culture. And then let's now explore common leadership failures so that we can avoid them also. And the following are what create weak systems. First, you have delegation without accountability, assigning quality responsibility. This is typical in many organizations. Assigning quality responsibility to QA department while leadership remains disengaged from quality decisions and outcomes. This creates a uh, weak leadership culture. We have to avoid it by all costs. And then the side favoritism. This also create weak leadership when consistently visiting or prioritizing one side over another, creating perceived hierarchy and resentment. I have seen this and it's very dangerous. So we have to avoid this too. It create weak leadership system, weak system in general. So we have uh, reactive management when only engaging with quality issues during crisis and audits rather than proactive system oversight. And this happen also in some organizations. They just keep the quality there for compliance and they don't even care. And only when something happen, they will just react. And, that create a very, very weak system. We have to avoid that. And then we have conflicting messages. When stating quality is a priority, on papers, while rewarding speed, like we need to meet the targets, we need to production that also it compromises it create a very weak system and quality feel isolated. So we have to avoid that too. And then we have interface neglect. When leaders are focusing on site-specific operations while ignoring the critical handover process between the facilities. That will create a hole where, if you observe, in Model 1, we identify a lot of critical incidents happening for handover in between. So it has to be designed and be considered and be owned also. You have documentation theater. This is very typical also. Creating an impressive quality manual that doesn't reflect actual practices or decision making. Our manual have to reflect the reality, like what we are going through here right now. We are not designing anything from outside. We are designing in our case study company. Cross-site accountability problems. Let's see the problem and then let's see the solution. When you have cross-site, the problem, when quality issues span multiple sites, accountability oval uh, sometimes get dissolved because each side will point the finger to the other. Problem is still there. Customers are suffering, and then the internal blame culture is going on and on and on. This is not a documentation problem. It is a leadership weakness. It's a leadership problem. So how do you solve this? Clear ownership metrics, what we just designed that right now. Joint problem solving protocol have to be enforced, and also shared metrics that reveal system performance. And leadership that holds both sides or multiple sides accountable to the integrated system, because the objective, the overall objective, have cover all sides. So one quality system means one accountability structure. Like what we did there right now, the owner is the operational director who likes order of some objectives, and both sides are reporting to that operations director. So that's how you smartly solve such issues. Now, let's look at quality ownership beyond QA. How do you effectively uh, involve all sides in a real sense, genuinely incorporate quality within roles? So everyone owns quality. That's truth. For example, QA department, yes, they own the system stewardship, they own the verification, and they own the audit coordination. This is QA job, yes. And operations have to own daily quality execution, have to own processes controls, have to own also the first line quality conformance. And then we have maintenance. They own the equipment reliability. Is their job, right? They know how. They know the calibration, so they own it. And then they know the preventative maintenance, so they own that too. And then you have logistics. Logistics on the cold chain, they own the transport quality, and they own the handover integrity. And then you do have leadership. The leadership on the system accountability, they own the resources, and they own the cultures. And then you have the HR training, owns the competence, they own awareness, and they own the capability building. So the QA department cannot own quality alone. You can see it here clearly, right? Every function contributes to quality outcomes and must understand their role in the integrated system. So when everyone understands their role, there is no problem actually. Everybody will be happy. But when the roles are overlaps or when there is no quality, that's when the problem happens. And it's that always from the top. Now, let's see our model two output. What did we learn here from Global Meat House? We learned the quality policy, single policy with shared meaning across both sides, which address animal welfare, cold chain, traceability, export compliance, and continual improvement. The quality policy also covers it was approved by GM or CEO and communicated to all the interested parties. And then we have learned the leadership accountability metrics, which cover clear roles for executive leadership, site managers, and supervisors. It covers also cross-site responsibility documented, who owns what between the sites, and no gaps in quality ownership from livestock reception to customer delivery. And then also we have covered the quality objectives with six key metrics. So we have customer complaints, which is currently at 2.3, and our target is to reduce it for less than 1.5. And then we have the second metrics, which is the specifications conformance, which is at 9.94, and we want to raise it to 98%. And then we have cost of poor quality, which is with the baseline of 384,000 USD, and we want to reduce it to 30 to 50% within the next 18 months. And then we have temperature excursions with 12 incidents, and we want to reduce it into a zero. And then we do have traceability with 8 gaps per year, which we want to eliminate that with 100% success. And then we do have export documentation error of 7%, and we want to raise the accuracy to 99%. These are what we covered in this model. And also we covered the interface control program procedures, the 15-kilometer transport process documented, the temperature monitoring, the documented handover, and also the acceptance criteria, right? The operations director owns the interface instead of last year when it doesn't have any clear ownership. And then we did cover the output of this model is leadership routine. Uh, it includes daily quality metric review from both sides, the weekly routine cross-site coordination meeting, the monthly routine management review of objectives, and the quarterly routine leadership presence at both facilities. And then also another output is communication protocol, side A to side B and vice versa, daily coordination, quality issues escalation within 2 hours specified time frame. And we do have customer complaint investigation. Both sides must involve. And then we also covered management review participation. All the leaders must be present. So how these outputs will enable later chapters, later modules, from module 3 to module 8. Quality policy will guide risk identification in module 3 and operational decision in module 5. And then we do have leadership accountability metrics which assigns risk owners in module 3 and resources responsibility in module 4 and process owners in module 5. And then the quality objectives will drive KPI selection in Model 6 and improvement priorities in Model 7. And then the interface control procedure will become a detailed operational control in Model 5 and audit checkpoints in Model 6. And then the leadership routines uh, will generate management review inputs in Model 6 and improvement opportunities in Model 7. And then we do have communication protocols. Will support competitive competence development in Model 4, and corrective actions coordination in Model 7. So these outputs transform leadership from passive approval to active quality ownership. More importantly, they create the foundation that makes Model 3 to Model 8 possible, right? So without these outputs that we just discussed now, the formation, uh, the remaining models will lack the ownership. Uh, they will lack the next models will lack ownership and accountability. Now, model two, uh, in the complete journey, our journey so far. So let's understand our position in 8 model course. Model one is complete, which is understanding the business before ISO, and the theme for that model was start with understanding the organizations, not the standard, and it covers organizational operations maps. We also interested parties identified there, and context analysis is completed there, and scope was defined in model one. And then model two, where we are right now, leadership and quality. The theme is either fail when leadership delegates quality, and we have seen that right now. What we have covered, leadership accountability has been established, quality policy has been created, roles and responsibility have been defined, and quality culture foundations have been laid. And then next, we have model three, which is planning the quality management system. The theme there is planning turns intention into structure. We'll cover risk-based thinking. We'll cover risk and opportunity identification. We'll cover quality objectives planning, and we'll cover change management. And then in model four, which is support processes, the theme is systems fail when support is weak, and we will cover resources and infrastructure, competence and training, communication systems, documentation frameworks. And then in model five, which is operational control, the theme is this is where ISO meets reality, and will cover processes mapping and control, suppliers management, production control, and traceability system. And then in model six, performance evaluation, the themes there, if you don't measure it, you can improve it. What we will cover there is monitoring and measurement, customer satisfaction, internal audits, and management review. And then in model seven, improvement, the theme there, improvement is the soul of ISO 9001. Will cover the nonconformity handling, corrective actions, continual improvement, and learning culture. And then in model eight, which is certification readiness, the theme there is certification is a checkpoint, not the finish line. We'll cover their gap analysis, we'll cover audit preparation, we'll cover certification processes, and we'll cover post-certification maintenance. So why model two is critical, very critical actually. The reason model two is critical because model two is the foundation, and everything that follows depend on the leadership accountability that we have just established, right? So without leadership ownership, risk in model three don't get managed, right? And then without leadership commitment, resources in model 4 will not be allocated. Who will allocate the resources if the leadership is not committed? And then without leadership engagement, operations in model 5 will not have any direction. And then without leadership review, performance in model 6 will not have any decisions drivers. So it has to be based on the KPIs. And then without leadership accountability, improvement in model 7 will not happen. So enforcement from the top is critical. And then without leadership presence, certification will be just paper, right? Now, your progress. So now we have accomplished 25% of implementation journey of our eight models course. And so far we have built the foundation, and now we should be ready for the structure. So model one, we learn understanding our organization. Model two, we learn how to lead it, leadership. In model three to model eight, we will learn the systematic uh, sys- system. Okay, in model three to to model eight, it will teach us how to systematize, measure, and improve it, and the journey will continue from there. Of course, we'll go to other models, but now let's focus on 9001. Now, practical exercise, leadership assessment. This assessment is meant for you to reflect and assess and see where your organization is, and then you can pick. You will be able to identify here where your organization is from the maturity continuum, and then you can pick from there. So let's see evaluation of our current site here in our uh, mid slaughtering house. Participants or all of us here should assess our own organizations against these leadership criteria. So question one, how often do top management visit each site in our real work? How often do management visit our real site? Let's see the best answer here. Okay, so for a global meat house, and this you can tailor it to any organization you want. For a global meat house, the best practice will be at least monthly for executive leadership and weekly for operational director. The red flag for the global meat house here, if they say we visit when there is a problem or side B rarely see leadership, that's a red flag. Uh, the target for global meat warehouse is quarterly visit of CEO for both sides, operational director weekly, and quality manager bi-weekly at both sides. Second question, can you name the owner of the slaughter processing interface that we discussed in this model? And you can reflect this question to interfaces that you have in your own organization. Here, the correct answer will be operational director owns the 15-kilometer process. That's what we discussed, right? And the wrong answer will be like side A owns the owns the departure, side A B owns the arrival and transportation. They just deliver. So then why this matter? Because without clear ownership, the interface becomes a quality blind spot, and it happened last year. That's why they have 12 incidents. Now, do quality objectives connect both sides or create competition? You can reflect this to your own organization. Uh, they are connected because reduce customer complaints from 2.5, 2.3 to 1 to less than 1.5. Both sides must contribute. That's an overall objective, and it connects both sides. If it was competitive, it would be like side A must achieve 95% and side B must achieve 97%. And that way, actually, it will create rivalry, right? So the best practice is like what we did there, share the objective with site-specific contribution metrics. Question 4, what happened when a problem spans both locations? You can reflect that to your own organization. Um, a strong system will say clear escalation problems, both side managers involved, quality manager coordinates investigation, and 2 hours response time has been set, and everyone is guided by it. The weak system will finger point, no, it's not my problem, it's their problem. That mentality, I've seen it in some organization. And that delay will just uh, that delay will just hurt the customer and hurt the reputation of the organization. Test case, temperature excursion during the transport. Who investigates here? That one is for you to take away and think about it. Or maybe you can watch the video again. Now, question 5. How do employees at side B perceive leadership commitment? Again, you can reflect in your own organization. Here you have three types of quality. The positive indicator will say leadership visits regularly, they know our names, they ask good questions, they follow up on issues. This is the maturity system. We'll talk like that. The negative indicator will say we only see them during audit. They don't understand our work. Sites A gets all the attention. You know, it happens sometimes. Cultural tests. So maybe if you want to do some tests in your own organization, there just ask 5 random site employees, shop floor employees. Do they know the quality policy? Or you can mix them, and then from there you can see where you are and where you want to be. Question 6. What evidence would an auditor find of leadership engagement? You see, those are the objectives evident. Sign attendance records from site visits, very important. Engagement review minutes showing both sides discussed, very important also. Quality objectives with leadership ownership assigned. Corrective actions with executive follow-up documented. Employee training records showing leadership participation, and also communication records between sites and leadership. When there is no evidence, we are committed. Just words in the paper, that's weak leadership. So you can use these questions to assess your own organizations and see where you are and where you want to be, and then you can set your action plan. Now, building a leadership routine from assessment to action. After you have done the assessment there and you have seen where you are, first you can establish a baseline and you have to document current leadership engagement patterns and you can identify the gaps, acknowledge the weaknesses honestly, and just take it as a point of improvement and then design a routine. You can create sustainable schedule for site visits or and also the reviews and cross-site meeting that leadership can maintain and you can coordinate with them for that. And then after that, you can, after proper coordination with them and the objectives, you can communicate the change, you know, cultural building, meeting the objectives, fulfilling the ISO requirement, and then communicate, announce the new leadership routine to both sides or to all the sides that you have. And you should explain the purpose, and then you set the expectations for engagement so people know why it's done. And then you have to execute consistently, right? Sometimes things happen, you get busy, but you just have to do it even if you are busy. It happens like once a week or or twice a month. Is weekly or monthly or daily or quarterly. Just do it to your best ability because that commitment will show people this is better actually. Then just monitor the culture, observe the language, and see the behavior and see the attitude shift and leadership present, become consistent, and just keep improving from there. Now, let's integrate with Model 1 concepts. Building on the foundation. The Model 1 foundation, the context analysis, leadership response to internal and external issues affects quality. Interested parties, leadership ensure customer, regulatory, and employees' expectations are met. Process approach, leadership ensure end-to-end thinking across sites. Risk-based thinking, leadership allocates resources to address identified risk. Documentation framework, leadership ensures procedures reflects reality. Scope definition, leadership accountable for everything within the scope, right? And then site visit operations, leaderships bring the 15-kilometer gap between the two sites. That's how you connect Model 1 and Model 2, right? Now the Model 2 applications, uh, Model 2 applications, quality policy addresses the context issue, right? The animal welfare and the cold chain and the export compliance. And then you have leadership accountability metrics, which shows how service, who serves which interested parties, right? And then you have operational director owns cross-site processing integration. And then you have quality objectives targeting the 384K cost of poor quality recurring problems. And then you have leadership routines to ensure documents stay current and relevant. And then you do have executive team who owns the entire scope from livestock to customers. And finally, you do have interface control procedures which will prevent it's not my problem mentality. So model one identified what needs to be managed. And here in model two establishes the who is accountable, and how leadership makes happen. So without model two, model one is just analysis, right? But with model two, it becomes actions. It become tangible. So let's prepare for model three, planning the quality management system from leadership to risk-based planning. So model two establish who is accountable for quality at global meat house, and model three will address how to identify and manage risk systematically, right? So model three, which is risk which is planning the quality management system, and planning turns intentions into a structure. So, what are we going to learn in Model 3? 3.1 risk based thinking, and which will be explained simply. That will cover what risk means in ISO 9001, and it's not hazard that is in ISO 22000. And then it will cover process risk versus business risk. And then it will also cover common risk in meat production and distribution across two sites. And then in 3.2, we will learn identify how to identify risk and opportunities, and that will cover risk in procurement, risk in processes, risk in storage, and risk uh, at the at the critical 15-kilometer transport. And then also we will cover the opportunities to reduce uh, the 384K cost of poor quality, and then we'll cover building a simple practical risk register there. We will do it together. Then in 3.3, you have quality objectives that drive performance, which will cover uh, converting the 6 objectives from the model 2, you remember the one we addressed it, into action plans. And then we will have linking of those objectives to KPI and daily metrics. And then we will also give examples specific to slaughtering and processing operations. So in model 3.4 also we will learn planning change without disrupting the operation. We have to balance it also, right? So we will cover there managing new equipment, managing suppliers, or managing the markets. And then we will learn there preventing um, unintended consequences. And also we will learn there change control in food operations. And then uh, the connection. Now let's see the connection. So the leadership accountability establishes in model 2 here ensures risks don't just get documented, they get managed. Each risk will have an owner from the leadership team we have just defined here, right? So let's preview the Model 3 now. Model 3 will take the global meat house's actual quality problem, the traceability gaps, you remember, and the temperature failure, you remember, and also the documentation error, the 7%, and transform them into a systematic risk management approach that prevent recurrence. So model 3 builds directly on this model 2 leadership structure without uh, without clear ownership in Model 2 here, risk management in Model 3 will just become a paperwork. So together, they create accountability for prevention. The key takeaway in our Model 2, we have to remember this. Number one, leadership cannot be split across sites. So two facilities require one coherent leadership structure with clear accountability for the integrated system. The 15 kilometer between the sites A and site B should not create separate quality system. Number two, we have to take away also another lesson. Number two is quality policy must guide daily decision, not just abstract on paper. So uh, there's it has to be specific commitments that address animal welfare or specific challenges you are having in your organization. And also, it has to address the cost of poor quality and has to address the market compliance and has to address the traceability and all the critical elements. And then you do have number three takeaway is objectives must address real problems, right? So target actual performance gap. For example, 2.3% complaints, 94% conformance, 12 temperature excursion, 8 traceability gaps, and so on. So it has to be smart and measurable. And then you have number four takeaway is the interface is a process, not a gap, and has to be owned by the operation. For example, the operational director who is managing both sides, and it has to be documented and controlled. It has to have acceptance criteria, and also both sides have to have the authority for rejection and acceptance. So that's the effective management of the interface process. And then the leadership visibility is matter a lot. We have to take this away. We have to integrate our leaders into, you know, they have to be visible on the sites. They have to engage fairly, visibly. They have we have to build culture through leadership behavior and not just policy statement. And number six, accountability prevents recurring problems. Accountability is very important, what we have built there. And if you see in Global Meat House, there is a 33% failure. And because there was nobody that owns, there was no clear ownership. So here in model two, we fix this by clear ownership, and you have to create clear ownership. Number seven, model two is the foundation for everything. Leadership, accountability, established will enable everything from here on. The the leadership, without leadership, we cannot do model 3 to model 8. So risk owners who actually manage risk. Okay, this is enabled by leadership. Model 4, resources allocation based on the leadership priorities. L- Model 5, operational control with clear ownership. Model 6, performance data that leadership actually review. And Model 7, corrective actions that leadership ensures are effective. And Model 8, certification readiness with leadership engagement. So Model 2 transforms ISO 9001 from a documentation exercise into a leadership commitment, right? So without leadership ownership, the system will definitely fail regardless of how good the procedures look. This model is the foundation upon which Model 3, 8 are built. All right, the final truth. Quality system don't fail at sites. They fail in between. So that 15-kilometer gap have to be covered. So that physical distance we have of 15 kilometers, the 200 employees across two sites, different processes, different risk, different procedures, different challenges, but one quality system, one set of customer, and one reputation. That has to be the mentality. So the leadership challenge here, making one company, one system a reality, will require these from the following from the leadership. Visibility, engage leadership at all the sides. Clear accountability with no gaps. Communication that prevents us versus them mentality. Quality objectives that unite rather than divide. Interface control that eliminate handover failure. Those are required by leadership. Those are the challenges that leadership has to overcome. So the journey is ahead. Model 3 will convert leadership commitment into risk management and planning. Model 4 will provide the resources, competences, and infrastructure to support the system. And Model 5 daily, will detail the operational control for every process from livestock to customer. And Model 5 will establish monitoring, measurement, and management review. And then Model 7 will build systematic improvement and corrective actions processes. And Model 8, the certification readiness. Certification is a checkpoint. Again, not the finish line, just a start. Operational excellence is the way. So beyond ISO 9001, after certification, the Global Meat House have the plan of integrating ISO 22001 food safety management, ISO 22000 FSSC 22000 food safety management, and then ISO 14001 for environmental management, and then ISO 45001 occupational health and safety management. Those are the plans on the pipeline. And then the opportunity here, organizations that master multi-site leaderships don't just achieve certification, they build competence advantage. When side A and side B operates as one integrated system, the quality improve, cost decrease, and customer will definitely notice. So it's all started here. Model 2, leadership foundation, and everything that will follow on this accountability structure. And without leadership commitment, again, that's real and that's visible. And the leadership that is accountable, the remaining module will become a paperwork exercise. So leadership again in model 2 is the foundation. Risk management, we will address risk management in model 3, resources in model 4, operations model 5, measurement in model 6, and improvement in model 7. All depend on the leadership commitment. And then the certifications will validate that the entire system is working. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels and stay updated with our ongoing updates. Model 3, we will update Model 3 soon. Okay, so take the subscription. We'll not take anything away from you. Just subscribe. Okay, so share also with your friends. If you find it helpful, please share with your friends. And hopefully we'll keep giving you free material like this. And also you can discuss with us in the comment section, ask for any resources, ask for any support, and we are here to help. Thank you so much. This was presented to you by Worldball. I am the founder of QHSC360.org. You can message me there. I have a lot of free resources also to give away. You can have some checklists. I can help you with some SOPs and all that. Thank you, and see you next time.